Hi, my name is Dr. Stefan Esser with EsserHealth.com, and today I want to talk about strokes, what they are, and what you can do to prevent them. Quite simply put, a stroke is a brain attack. You heard of a heart attack, where you don't get enough blood to the heart, and as a result the heart dies off. Same thing can occur to the brain tissue, or the neurons up in the brain. If you get insufficient blood going to that neuron, or that group of neurons, they die off, or at least they get very injured. You don't want that to happen, do you? Now, a stroke comes in two main categories, either a dry or ischemic stroke, or a wet or hemorrhagic stroke. Ischemic or dry strokes are 85% of all strokes, and hemorrhagic or wet are 15% of all strokes. The risks for an ischemic stroke or a dry stroke are anything that blocks up your blood vessels. That means anything that causes cholesterol plaques to form on the blood vessels themselves, or anything that damages the lining of the blood vessel, resulting in an insufficient blood flow to that part of the brain. Also, anything that blocks or clogs up that blood vessel, like a clot that comes up from the heart. Those can all cause dry or ischemic strokes, similar to you blocking up the plumbing in your house, and as a result your sinks don't drain well. Now, to use that same example for a hemorrhagic or wet stroke, imagine a pipe in your house breaking because of too much pressure or damage to the pipe itself. Now water goes everywhere. Well, that is a hemorrhagic stroke, where blood, instead of staying inside of a blood vessel inside the brain, the blood vessel breaks and blood moves around in the brain and damages and injures the tissue surrounding it. Hemorrhagic strokes are only 15%, so far less common than the ischemic or dry stroke. Now, your risk factors. How can you prevent a stroke? Well, risk factors are either modifiable, meaning you can do something about them, or non-modifiable, means you can't change a thing. The non-modifiable are if you're over the age of 55, if you're a male, if you're of minority status, in particular African American race as compared to Caucasian, if you've had a stroke before, if you have a family history of strokes. All of those you can't do anything about, so may as well stop thinking about them. But there are a lot of things you can do stuff about, and that includes, are you at a good weight or are you obese? Because obesity means you have increased amounts of hormones in the bloodstream that damage blood vessel walls and can cause a stroke or increase your risk of a stroke. Number two, do you have high blood pressure? If your blood pressures are over the 120 over 80 range, that's too high for those small blood vessels in the brain, and over time they may be damaged. So, do what you need to do, the right diet, the right exercise, and potentially some medication to help bring that blood pressure under control. Next, high cholesterol. High cholesterol comes from two sources. Your genetics, means your body makes it, or you're eating it. Where do you get it? What type of food? Well, if it has a mother or a face, it's got cholesterol. So get those foods out of your dietary program if you have high cholesterol, and watch your cholesterol drop like a rock. Next, if you are smoking, which hopefully none of you are, but all of the smoke damages the blood vessels and increases your risk of a stroke. The good news? Quit smoking, and within 5 to 10 years, your risk of a stroke is almost down as low as someone who never smoked before. Next risk, type 2 diabetes. Means you got high blood sugars. That damages the blood vessel wall and increases your risk of a stroke. So, make the nutritional interventions, stay active, achieve an ideal weight, and reduce your blood sugars and help reduce your risk of a stroke. And finally, atrial fibrillation. That's where you have an abnormal rhythm of the heart that can increase your risk of clots forming, and clots can then go to the brain and cause which type of stroke? Ischemic or hemorrhagic? You're right, ischemic, just like we talked about. So now you know a little bit more about a stroke, or a brain attack as some people like to call it. You know the two major categories or types, and you know a couple things you can do to prevent it. For more great tips on how to live the most vibrant life you can, swing by EsserHealth.com.